And be Rad.
So it's B Red. Do you have a nickname?
No.
Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
What up, guys? This is B-Rad here,
And this is Blake.
and we have a special guest, Aaron Cubbage.
How's it going, guys?
What's
It's
up?
Good to see y'all.
Yeah, you too, man.
It's a little nerve-wracking, but we'll be all right.
We're in on the ground level.
Yeah, we
I'm
are.
coming on the ground level with you guys. You guys are gonna be famous, and I'm just kind of
Oh,
riding
man.
your coattails.
We wouldn't forget about you.
But what I would like to do is start from the very beginning and start from how you grew up.
Yeah, so it's really neat. I just walked into this for the audience, and I didn't know it was gonna be live. So this is really cool that we're going live. Yeah, so my name's Aaron Cubbage. I'm 45 years old. I grew up in Stanley. So I went to Mount Carmel Christian Academy from the time I was in kindergarten until the time I graduated. We had a whopping 14 people in our senior class.
Oh, man.
In comparison to you guys, it was a lot. But yes, I went to Mount Carmel. You got to give you some background. My faith, I'm a Christian.
Awesome.
Born again believer in Christ. A conservative, pretty conservative guy. Most people that have known me for a long time know where I stand with my value system. It's like most of Page County. After high school, I went to Liberty University and was there from '96 until 2001. I took a year off to recruit for the school, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in government pre-law. And then when I left school, I kind of kicked around taking the LSATs and becoming an attorney. And then I realized I didn't want to do that. And I probably wasn't smart enough for all that. So I actually came back to Page County and worked for my dad. My dad had Aaron Cubbage Pontiac GMC in Shenandoah for years. And I started out as a salesman and was parts and service manager for about a year. And then I was recruited. I kind of wanted to get in law enforcement. I had some buddies in law enforcement, and I was recruited way back in 2002. So I started at the sheriff's office in '02 part-time in the jail. And after about 6 months, I was able to go to road school. And so
What's road school?
So basic patrol school is at the Central Shenandoah Justice Training Academy over in Weir's Cave.
Yeah.
And that's where we all go to get our
Yeah.
certifications.
Okay.
So I went there. I got out of there after about 4 or 5 years. I applied to be a corporal, went through the testing process, made corporal, then eventually became a sergeant. So I was in patrol for about 9 years. And then I had an opportunity to do a lateral move to the Criminal Investigations Division. And so the Criminal Investigations Division handles all of your serious felonies. I say serious misdemeanors, felonies, and things like that. So a lot of the CSI stuff.
Oh, man, that's cool.
And patrol handles your full service stuff, like where you see guys running around answering calls for service.
So did you have to do like cold cases?
Yeah, so I went down there as a sergeant, and eventually moved up to lieutenant, and then the commander of the division. So one of my responsibilities were basically all the cases in the sheriff's office that reached the felony level or serious misdemeanor level or a complicated misdemeanor level where there's a lot of moving parts with it that road deputies and stuff didn't have time for. So I oversaw the narcotics unit and then the general investigations unit. So we handled everything from frauds to sexual assaults, attempted capital murders, suicides. I mean, if you can basically think of it, we handled it. And cold cases. And there's still cold cases, interestingly enough, that go back more recently, and then some that are old, like up in the 80s and stuff. So I got a chance to look at some of that stuff. So after being at the sheriff's office, for many years, I had the opportunity to go back to school, and I earned my master's degree in criminal justice from Liberty University. And I also graduated from the Virginia Forensic Science Academy in 2000. Was it 17? The years were running together. That was awesome. So that's more of your crime scene investigations breakdown. So a lot of agencies will have an investigator that just does the interviews and stuff that you see on television. Then they have the agents that like break it down and do all that. We kind of do both because that's what smaller agencies do.
Yeah. You ain't got the people necessarily.
But we ain't got the people.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are the people. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to do that. And then this spring, I finished my PhD in criminal justice from the university. So so I was at the sheriff's office for 17 years. I'm now at the Stanley Police Department where I'm a captain, And my wife and I have been married for 15 years. Melinda Cubbage, she was a Bean. We have a son named Gavin who's 13 years old. He goes to Mount Carmel too. We chase him around playing baseball.
Is that a bean with the H?
It's Behm. Gosh, you're asking me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got the H in it. I don't know why.
Just
Some of my questions catching me off guard.
I knew a guy with the last name Beam, and he just passed away, and I just wondered if there was any relation.
So it could be. She graduated from Liberty High School. She's a
Okay.
physical therapist
Okay.
assistant that works for Centera. She does in-home physical therapy. But my entire family lives here in Page County. I played some sports back in the day. I was semi-athletic. I ran track, played baseball. At Mount Carmel, we had flag football. We didn't have the tackle football.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. Everybody gives us a hard time. But we had 4 national championships. It's all based. So the difference is it's all based on speed.
Yeah.
Oh
coordination.
yeah,
And
definitely.
we had a guy. His name's Matt Duncan. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's hands down the fastest athlete I bet you this country. Page County.
Really?
He ran probably a 4.4, 4.5 40, and he actually walked on at Liberty University as a punt returner. We didn't believe him.
No.
So I go to one of his practices. There he is, dressed out. Dude,
I wonder what he's doing now.
you can fly. Last I heard, he's in the military. But I've asked around. A lot of guys knew him, and he's probably one of the fastest guys. When you see a Division I athlete run,
Yeah.
and then you see a video of yourself running, it's
Yeah.
it's great. And that's, I mean, he was just blazing. And when I was down at Liberty, 1 year I lived on the baseball dorm, and then the next year I lived on the track and field dorm. So I was around some Division I athletes, and so it really
Yeah.
reminds you where you fall in the pecking order.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. But yeah, so we had basketball, track and field, baseball, and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. I played a lot of softball up into my late 20s. Got a couple of injuries and was like, this is probably not a good idea anymore.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, most of my time is spent. I spent a lot of time doing research for my campaign to make sure that stuff I'm putting out is accurate. I spend a lot of time with my family. Full time now, obviously with the Stanton Police Department, and it's another full time job running.
Dang right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can only imagine how busy you are.
Yeah, you put in a lot of work, don't you?
yeah, it's crazy, but it's good because you're only as good as your team is, and I've got a heck of a team. And it's funny, you start out doing this stuff, and you think to yourself, like, what do you think it's gonna be?
Yeah.
And then you find out, like, it's kind of like you guys with your podcast. Like, you find out what it really
Really
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Well-
reality sets in. It's like, wow, this is a lot different than I thought.
But when we first started doing this, like I thought, like, oh, it's gonna be easy. Like, we just get on here and just talk. But there's a whole lot more behind all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Because like you gotta make this, you gotta do that, you gotta edit, and luckily we'll have our own editors here soon.
it's
So
awesome.
we won't have to worry about editing or making sure the audio is all right. And
The
everything.
prep work is what you'll find. It just keeps you on point. We talked about segments and stuff and really trying to narrow the topics. And when you start digging into topics that you really want to talk about and
Yeah.
focus on, man, you could go 15, 20 minutes on one topic.
Man, I
Yeah.
can hear forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys like to talk anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, my main goal for doing this was I wanted to have something of my own because like I work for a warehouse company
Yeah.
and I make pretty decent money. I ain't got to really worry about anything and whatnot. But I wanted to have something that I can put my own effort into and like something of my own.
Right.
And
Right.
I thought about doing like a physical company, like power washing or something like that. But we just had a baby and
How's
like
your
a
baby?
1-year-old.
Oh man,
Yeah, and I have 2 kids,
I remember that.
but we can't afford a babysitter. So I was like, well, what's something like I could do that might be a little easier, and I could do it at home. And
Yeah.
podcast is what popped in my head, and then I was like, all right, well, I don't want to do it by myself because I'm not really that good at talking. I'm more of like a enclosed person,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, I need somebody to help me like talk and uh, back and forth and whatnot.
Oh, you picked the winner, didn't you?
Yeah,
You picked the winner, right?
I picked Blake, and then we decided on a name and just started from there. And the first couple episodes was nerve wracking. Like I was messing up words. I was making my own words. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty insane. But now it's coming a lot more natural, and my main goal is like even if it doesn't blow up or anything, to get better at talking.
Yeah.
And I can slowly start to see myself getting a little better. So I'm happy with it.
You just want to connect with people, really.
Yeah, and connect.
And you'll find that, like, you'll find, the more you sit down and talk with people, and you hit on subjects, you find yourself being a little bit more detailed. You
Yeah.
kind of get to the point a little faster.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you guys keep doing this. In a year, you'll look back and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is." It's
Yeah.
just like I used to listen to the Junkies on 106.7 The Fan, and those guys, it's like four friends. They've been together for
That'd be cool.
years and years and years. And to
Yeah.
the point now they're millionaires. They do this all the time. And they've on their website, when I used to listen to, they put up stuff from way back in the day when they first started, and it was like
Yeah.
this. You gotta start somewhere, and I think it's great that guys your age, you're both 29, you told me,
Yeah.
that are doing stuff like this and thinking outside the box. And
Yeah.
I think that's what true entrepreneurs do. And I'm not an entrepreneur, you guys are. And I think
Oh
it's
man,
awesome.
I can't believe you called me that. Oh wow.
Well, here's the question: have you earned your first dollar?
No,
Oh, it's coming though.
Not
right?
yet.
No, it was coming.
I swear I'm not even worried about the money. Like,
Well, I figured. Well, actually, once we post this episode to iTunes and all the rest of the things, we'll be eligible for ads, and then we'll be able to put ads on our podcast and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a slow form of income,
Yeah,
but it's a start.
every little bit counts.
yeah, don't.
Absolutely.
But and the main reason is like I said, I was talking to you earlier about like I have a type of peace now, and I want to be more into the community and whatnot. And I was like, well, what's something that's positive and can like help people? And then I was like, all right, well, let me like make a podcast, get people's stories on it, and maybe somebody that's listening to it is either going through something similar or can grab something from it, and that can
Right.
help them in their life.
Well, do you feel comfortable telling the audience what you told me about voting? You guys?
So I'm
I'm not
actually
trying to put you on the spot. This is your podcast.
Well,
but
Put him on the spot. Do
Well,
it.
I was actually gonna mention that, and I'm gonna push it a little further in some other videos and stuff. But me and Blake have not voted, and I'm 29. He's about to turn 29, and
Tell them what caused you to change your mind to vote.
so
And I want Blake to tell his story
Oh,
too.
man.
Just don't use that word.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so my main thing is before about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had a lot of stress in my life. Relationship problems. And, you throw a kid into that, it makes it 10 times worse. Job problems, and then, like I said, about a year and a half ago, all that stopped. And so now I'm way more aware of my community, where I'm at in it, and everything. And yeah, now I'm just trying to reach out more.
Learn more.
Yeah, learn more.
Oh, now me next. Okay, so growing up,
This is great. This is great.
growing up, I thought I was this cool kid, and people that say screw the police, think they're cool, but man, they're putting their life on the line and trying to do good, and yeah, there might be a few mix that's bad, but when they pull us over like bad people, I used to be that bad person. Like, why would I give you that bad attitude and give you a hard time? And like, you got to keep your cool the whole time,
Well, what's awesome about this is you guys are going through the maturation process that we all went through. When I was 18, 19, 20, I mean, I always joke, when I was 24 is when I got into law enforcement. And
Yeah.
I was a jackwagon like everybody else. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had, good people to lead me. And, as you get older and you guys are going to hit your 30s, I mean, you're going to see. You're
That sounds bad.
No, hey, I'm in my 40s, man. But you're going to see such a change in your life. I talked about, my relationship with the Lord. So my relationship with the Lord has grown so much from when I was younger until now in my 40s. And what my relationship means with him and my family is different than what it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because you just get through those stages, and it's awesome that you guys are, where you're at now. You went through the and here's what's awesome about it. So I'm a 45-year-old cop. I've been doing this for almost 21 years. All right, you guys have lived that life where you think you're the bad person just because you drive around with your loud exhausts doesn't make you a bad person. But what you guys are doing is giving us an opportunity to humanize law enforcement more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just, I mean, like any profession, there's always going to be a good.
Yeah.
If you go to doctors' offices, you can.
Dang right.
It's all the same. But when you do things like this, it really opens up the opportunity for us to be like, hey man, I'm just a dude.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that pair of jeans that fits just right. And as you get older, it's harder to find them. I was once wearing Levi's, now I've got some sort of off-brand J.C. Penney on, and we're just people,
Yeah.
and I think the more we can, as from our community, from all of us, the more that we can demonstrate that by doing things like this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a small thing, but it's a big deal at the same time because and throughout the course of my campaign, I haven't really had an opportunity to sit down with some 29-year-olds, like I said, like this ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. I love this. This is awesome.
It's a way to show people that you're not hard to reach. They can get a hold of you and confront you about an issue if they have one.
When I got the message from Bradley, I was like, "This is new."
I was wondering how he was gonna take it.
No, well, I mean, one of the things that I've said throughout this whole process is I want to be as available as I possibly can. That's so when we started, I think I told you this on the phone, it's like,
Yeah.
I put out my personal cell phone number. And I always repeat it. It's 540-244-8901. And like my wife's like, it's starting to sound creepy because you just kind of tag it at the end of all your lines. But the reason I did it is because, I'm accountable to you guys. I'm asking you to lead an agency that you have an impact on with your vote and your taxpayer dollars. And the least I can do is sit down and answer your questions about a profession I've been in for 21 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been doing this a long time. And one thing I've really tried to focus on is treating this as a career, not just as a job. And a job's like where you go, you just punch in and punch out.
Yeah.
With a career, it's like, okay, this is where my soul, my life is tied into. This is who I am. Like I couldn't do anything else. I'm a law enforcement officer, so I want to learn as much as I can and do the best as I can for me. I'm not in competition with anybody, but
Yeah.
I just want to do the best I can do.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I would encourage you with this, take the same approach.
I respect the hell out of that.
Now I have a question.
I respect
Let's
that.
go. Let's go.
I have a question. So,
All right, shoot.
what gave you that drive at such a young age to like go into law enforcement and everything? Because I feel like the younger generations, like even lower than me, don't really have like any drive.
You want to hear a funny story?
All right, let's hear it.
So when I was 18, I didn't plan on going to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mom and dad basically sat down and basically made me. They're like, "You're gonna go." So I go, and let me back up. I'm not saying a college degree is what everybody needs.
Yeah.
I mean, lots changed since I went to school. It's pertinent to me because of what I'm doing, me personally, what I want to do when I leave law enforcement. But I'm not one of those guys that's like everybody's gonna have a college degree. And back when I went to school, that was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
I was the first person from my family to get a bachelor's degree. Because that was a big deal back then. You're talking 2001, 2002. And so, but I remember my parents sitting down and they're like, "You're going to go." And I'm like, because I was immature. So I went. And dad's like, after the first year, once you're finished with the first year, if you don't like it, you can come home. I said, "All right." So I went for the first year. I'm like, "Hey, I want to come home." He's like, "Nah, you've already done a year. Make sure you go back and finish." So I went the second year. I'm like, "I want to come home." They're like, "Nope, you've already done 2 years." And I'm like, I see this as a trap. By
Yeah.
my third year, I was glad to be there. And I knew I wanted to do something in criminal justice. But like I said earlier, with like law school and stuff, I didn't know what it was. And with me, it was just something that was kind of always inside. As I got in my 20s, I kind of quickly came to the conclusion of like, okay, I can go out here and pursue something that's outside of what I want to do, and it's kind of a gamble, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. Or I can focus on this of what I want to do and just really put in the effort. And for me, I guess it's part of my makeup a little bit. I mean, I've got plenty of flaws, and my wife can tell you all about them. But for me, what I've always done is if I get into something, I really lock into it, and I just drive with it. And I really owe my mom credit for that because
Yeah.
when I was growing up, I really like until about my senior year in high school, I struggled so much with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was torture. And like finally, with my senior year, it just kind of started clicking a little bit. But my mom, we would sit down. This is back when you had to write everything by hand. And, you're writing these papers and
Yeah.
stuff. And if I mess up on a line, I'd be like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. She's like, is that the kind of product that you want to turn in? And I said, no. So I go back and finish that page and I get down to the last line and mess it up. And she just look at me. And it just kind of instilled that, okay, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. And then if it's not something that you do, support other people that do different things. So like one of the running jokes with my friends is, I'm not a handyman at all.
Yeah.
My wife's probably more of a handyman than I am. But, my friends that are like, I try to support them in that. Like, guys I know that are farmers. I grew up on a farm, but other than doing some basic farm work, I never really was a farmer.
Yeah.
But, when they have stuff at the agricultural fair stuff, I show up for that because, that's not me. And I'm not them and they're not me, but we can still encourage each other. And like when I started going to school, like a lot of my friends that, weren't doing that were like supportive of me. And I think it's just a point of recognizing where you're at and finding your strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
and celebrating those and pushing forward and then surrounding yourself with the kind of people that will do the same that you're doing for them.
Good
That's
support
that's
system.
probably the hardest part, getting around the right people sometimes.
Well, I think that what I've learned in my short time on this earth is, relationships are reciprocal. Like it's a two-way street. It's not one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I think one of the things I found out in my life is, there's certain relationships that you put more into than you get out of. It's not this. It's not selfish. It's just saying, if we're friends and we've got a relationship. I'm encouraging you. You're encouraging me. You got to have
Yeah.
Yeah.
that circulation there. If not, is it?
Balance.
Yeah. If not, is it really a friendship?
Yeah. I mean, I've had friends that I tell them what I'm about to do, and they'll be like, "Why are you gonna do that? Why don't you do it this way?" Or like, instead of supporting me, it
Mhm.
makes me feel bad about my decision.
Well, you've always got those people out there that'll just shoot you down because they don't want to. They don't want to see you do
I don't
well.
want to believe that people was like that though.
Well, but you got to remember. I know
There's a
you
lot of
don't want
people like
to. Well, I think there's people in the world. They want to see you do well, but not too well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, because you got to think. We've all got our own insecurities, right?
Oh yes,
And
sir.
if you're out there killing it on this thing, it's like.
You have a lot of people after you.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So my brother-in-law went to the same high school as Chris Daughtry, American
No
Idol.
way.
And this is kind of what we're talking about. So he went to the same high school with Chris Daughtry. He's younger than him, and when he made it big on American Idol, like all of these people from the same high school, they made fun of him. Like he was the guy that was kind of walking around with his guitar all the time.
Yeah.
When he made it big, they all tried to become musicians themselves
Yep.
because it's like he's doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
So at some point, Chris Daughtry was that guy, and I think, with what you do in life, at some point you're going to be that guy. And it's just important, not to get frustrated with people like that, try to encourage them.
Yeah.
And hey, let's find what you're good at.
Yeah.
We're friends. You don't have to shoot me down. Let's find what you're good at.
Yeah.
And just kind of encourage each other.
Yeah. I like that.
It's kind of an interesting take on things.
Well,
You're pretty wise.
I wouldn't say it's a lot of life lessons learned, man. And I know I've got plenty more to learn. I think the key to life is when I was a kid, we'd go on vacations. And back then, you had maps, big paper maps.
Yeah.
It was like
I remember
GPS,
those.
and I can remember my dad just always knowing where to go. And I'm like, my gosh, my dad knows everything.
Yeah.
So about that time, all right. So I'm at his age now, is probably where he was at when I was a kid. I think roughly that. But now I realize that he didn't. Like we're all learning this thing. When you bump into somebody and they tell you they got it all figured out, they're lying to you.
Yeah, that's right.
We're all trying to feel it out as we go, and the more I go around and talk to people, and I talk to people in their 70s and 80s, and they'll tell you about the life lessons they've learned, and they'll also tell you that they're still learning. And I think that's the key. I think you just got to push forward and learn as much as you can, and surround yourself with people that you can learn with and that can challenge you.
That's right. Everybody knows something you don't, so like it's good to
Well, and I talked
listen
earlier
to
about
people.
my farmer buddies or my friends that build stuff, and I watch them like,
Yeah.
but I think you've got to put people around you that challenge you and that can sharpen you. And if you don't have those kinds of people around you, I think you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're wasting their time too.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one thing I regret, and it's I didn't take school seriously. Like all throughout high school, uh, I barely tried.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, because we get we get way more texts into the show than we do like people that want to go live. Because for some reason, nobody wants to go live. Everybody just wants to like
I'll
text
tell you
in.
why.
Everybody wants to text in their problems and everything and
Mhm.
their difficulties and whatnot.
Mhm.
But we had a 16-year-old kid text in, and he wanted to know about his problem because he apparently smokes a lot of weed,
Mhm.
and he wanted to know like uh, how can he go about like stopping weed because he found it was like hindering him in his school.
Mhm.
And I told him because he didn't want to lose his friends. That was his main thing. It was all that's what combined his friends was everybody would just smoke weed. And I told him I was like, well, from my experience, your friends in high school, like I talked to 3. I had tons of friends. I only talk to 3 now. I told him, I was like, from my experience, I was like, I wouldn't worry about your friends. Like, yeah, still be friends with them, but if you have to distance yourself just to come off weed and everything, I was like, I would focus more on school.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you think back on and I'm 45, so I've been out of school with 20 some odd years, and there's a lot of people I still would consider friends, but I don't see them every day.
Yeah.
But when you're that age, you just don't know. And what's interesting, how you say it was 16?
Yeah, he was 16.
So at 16, he's actually wise beyond his years.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he's
You can see
seeing
it.
that it's hindering him
Right.
and what he wants to do. And so my foundation, and I'll share this with you guys. So my foundation in my life is on Jesus Christ and following the plan He's laid out for my life since I accepted Him into my heart. And so anything, if I give any kind of encouragement or when I give advice to people, I, I think you've got to start from the slate of having Him in your life. And I think I think there's good people that can make really good choices in life. But when you have that foundation with the Lord, your life will just expand and take off in ways that you never dreamed of. And with him, what's interesting is like he's 16 and he caught that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many 16-year-olds,
Not many.
how many
None.
30-year-olds do we know that
Dude.
that didn't?
They just think that life is this way and that's just how it's supposed to be.
Well, and we're really getting deep here, and I'm not trying to like take you down underwater
Oh,
or
I could talk
anything.
about the Lord forever.
Well, you think about it. So, we- you know, we are designed to learn.
Yeah.
As humans, right? And there's a deep yearning in our soul to find that purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it comes to different people at different times, but that's where I feel like the Lord makes up that gap,
Mhm.
and that's where you get that eternal security and you've got that purpose in your life, and when you think about what your role is in life and to share Him with others to see they have that peace as well.
Yeah.
It is pretty awesome. And it's really neat, when I don't know this kid, I don't know, what his plans are for the future or what his background is, but it's really awesome that he's noticed that now at the age of 16 versus, being 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
That's like to me that's the Holy Spirit. You
Oh, yeah,
like telling you like,
absolutely.
hey, you need,
Hmm. Convicted in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
All right. Let's talk about a little bit about your policies and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'd like to talk about the Dove program.
yeah, the Dove Project.
And the main thing is like I know plenty of people that's gotten clean and
Mhm.
whatnot, but the problem is when they come back from getting clean, it's the people that they used to hang around with, they go back around and then they get back on it.
Or family members.
Yeah, or family members.
Exactly.
How would the Dove program exactly help with that? If it
So
would.
when I was approached about running, there was two things I sat down and made up in my mind. One, I'm not going to run a vindictive campaign against anybody, and then two, I want to focus on things that are actually solutions to people that I know in Page County. And if I can't do either of those things, I'll postpone. So, in my 21 years of law enforcement, excuse me, one of the things that I've always heard from people that are trying to get to recovery or in recovery is I can't get away from the people that I use with,
Yeah.
and there's nothing for me in Page County.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, and I really thought a lot about it, and I spent a lot of time praying about it. Like, what can we do in Page County to help people in those situations? So, you guys may be too young to remember Wallace and
I
some of
remember
the.
that.
Oh, you remember Wallace?
My
Okay,
uncle worked there.
okay.
Yep.
So we in Page County, we're waiting for that Wallace plan to come back.
Yep.
We're waiting for that rehabilitation clinic to come back
Yeah.
or to come, and it's not coming. So my thought process is like, what can we do in our community within what we have to reach the people in need? And so what I want to do is use our sheriff's office as a hub. So we run into people all the time that are leaving jail, they're coming back in, um, and we've got people out there that are in need reaching out. It's like, well, what can we do to kind of change that flow? Because if you talk to anybody, I mean, you can ask around families. We have the same people going in and out of
Yeah.
jail all the time.
Mhm.
So what I want to do using the Dove Project is organize all of our services together. Churches, I go to Newport Church with a brother. My pastor's Dwayne Painter. They do free and D. I don't know if you've heard of it yet or not, but
Huh.
basically every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, somebody from the church sits down and they make dinner, and then
Oh,
someone
okay.
watches their kids, and people come in and talk about their recovery. A couple
Oh,
weeks ago, we had like
man.
24 people in there.
Oh, that's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
So
That's
the
awesome.
idea is to bring in resources like that, whether they be community, clergy, private, public, and start coordinating. Because when I found there's a lot of good people in Page County that want to do a lot of good things,
Yeah.
but we're just not coordinated. So, this guy over here is doing something, or this group's doing something. So the idea is to bring it all together, working together with our sheriff's office, because we've been a county since 1831, and the one thing that's never leaving, Lord willing, is our sheriff's office. It's ingrained in the community. So why not use that as the hub to
Yeah.
connect with all these other resources? So Taylor Alger is actually working on a similar program that's kind of focused on the homeless situation in the county, jobs out of Luray. And I've talked to her. I'm like, the more the merrier. So the Dove Project kind of works to connect people in our community with the resources they need to get to the point of recovery.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that recovery is like, your family sits down with you, they have an intervention, and you get in the van and you go off to California.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of steps in between for a lot of people in our community. It's getting to that point where they're far enough away from the people they've used with or have problems with, where they start thinking clearly to make that decision. And so that's what I want to do with that program, and then track it. So in Page County, we just kind of sometimes throw things up against the wall, see if they'll stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I want to do is track it after a year so we can go back and look and see what works, what doesn't work, so we can improve it to make it better. And we don't do that, and it's something easy to do. We can also track to see what our recidivism rate is in general. So that's the guys and gals that are coming in, or they're getting out of jail, they're coming back right back in again and again and again. We can break that down over the last 5 years, kind of figure out where people are at, and then over the next 4 years, see where that's at, because we don't have any idea what that number is, like a legitimate number. We know it's high.
Yeah.
We just don't know what that number is to give us a measure. So I think there's a lot of good people that want to get involved with that to really help out. And what I would eventually like to see is we turn it into a 501c3. And so you say, well, what's the catch with that? Well, the catch is it pulls it away from a guy that's running for sheriff all the time. And so it has its
Makes
own,
it its own thing.
makes it its own thing in conjunction with the sheriff's office. So that way, if we raise funds and things, when people get tired of the Cubbages being sheriff, and we get a painter or somebody, a Hilliard or somebody else
Oh
in there,
goodness.
yeah, you never know. When they get tired of it, it's like, we've got the 501c3 set up. It's somewhat independent, and it can progress on and on. So that way, the next guy or gal that comes in, it can take it and make it better. And that's how I see the sheriff's office. And it's nothing against anybody that's there now, current sheriff. It's just taking something and making it better. And
Yeah.
down the line, someone else will come along, and I want them to do the same thing. It's like, well, Aaron, he's done. It's
Yeah.
time for you to go and retire, and we want to take this thing and make it a little bit better, because so many times in law enforcement, once you really start paying attention to it, it's like we take 5 steps forward and 7 steps back.
Yeah.
I think that's with everything though.
Now let me
Well,
tell
It's
you
a
with,
flow.
Yeah.
with that program, I was a user at one time. I had to go to rehab and all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, meth and everything bad, anything bad. Well, anyways, staying busy, man. That's what. The second I have a chance to sit down and be in my head, not good. Not good.
Well, some of the people that I've talked to that are at or coming out of where you were at,
Mhm.
one of the things I did is said, look, this is the idea that I have. If it stinks, tell me, because I don't want to put it out there if it wasn't something that could have helped you out in your darkest moment. It's just that
Yeah.
it's that nudge, it's that helping hand. They're like, oh man, this is it's just something different that could have really impacted me. And what's awesome is something else that I like about talking about this project is that people feel comfortable sharing what you just shared.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so it's one thing to hear, hey, you need to get clean. I mean, I'm a conservative guy. I've been a cop my whole life. Honestly, I've never done a drug in my life. But when they hear it from somebody who's lived it, their reach goes so much further. And I think we've got a thing in our county over the last 20 or 30 years where people are just afraid to speak up and talk
Yeah.
about their experiences. When
Yeah.
in reality, that's what we need.
Because we haven't like humanized each other. We just feel like we're so far
Well,
apart.
there's
And
people. I think people just think, well, that's the family over there's dealt with a drug problem. Well,
yeah.
God forbid, my son's 13, but it can impact anybody.
Oh man.
And so, I would much rather have you share your experience to people to keep them away from that pitfall.
Oh man. I was stealing from my family. Like
So, what?
crazy stuff, man.
Let me ask you,
Crazy stuff.
what brought you into where you're at now? Like, what brought you along?
Man, the whole time I was doing drugs, I knew better. The Holy Spirit spoke to me the whole time. Anytime I got high, like I hated myself. Like never once did I have fun. Not one time.
What
And
brought you around to where you stopped? What was it
I
that was your
still
breaking
mess up
point?
every now and again,
Hmm.
but just wanting to live. I'm tired of feeling like I'm dead all the time and just not present in the Lord. The Lord.
Well,
The
and
Lord.
to your point, because you're coming around to that, we're made to be productive.
Yes.
That's why we're put on this earth.
When I'm being a degenerate, I feel like that. I feel like one. You know?
So you're kind of going through that growing process now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, and that's something you need to keep pushing forward
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
because I mean, you're 29, you're a young man.
Who told you I'm 29? I'm
You told
23.
you told me you're getting ready to turn 30.
I am. I'm 28. I'm 28.
But I mean, you talk about your generation and kind of not being motivated.
Yeah.
So it's up to you guys to change that, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta,
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, doing things like this and living a life of sobriety and really focusing on that is something you've got to be an example. You know,
Yeah.
if you look back when you're kids or young adults, and I know in my life, we all have those people you look up to. You're now in that role.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about that all the time.
We're getting
I'm now
really
the
deep,
adult.
but yeah, we're getting really deep. But you guys are in that role because you're you're those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the adult.
I'm the old guy. You're the new young guys coming up. That's gonna. Well, you think about it. I mean, we got to have future leaders, and that's one thing with our campaign. We wanted to keep it as positive as possible. And there's always hiccups. There's things
Oh
that
yeah.
people like to debate and get into it back and forth a little bit. But one thing we need in our county are future leaders.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And
Yes.
we've got to have people step up that care about our county. I mean, right now, probably the most powerful positions in our county are the board of supervisors because they get a lot of grief, and I've talked about that before. But they make a lot of decisions on our taxes.
Mhm.
Businesses coming into the community, and those jobs aren't easy. And we need young people to come in behind them and step up and help take those positions and take them seriously because you know there's 24,000 people roughly in Page County, and all of us are impacted by the leadership decisions in our county. And so we need guys like you, people that are your age, to start stepping up and getting involved.
Yeah.
You hear that, guys?
And
Future leaders right here sitting
uh,
talking to them.
Thank you, sir.
another thing I was going to ask you is about a jobs program for like addicts and people coming out of jail and whatnot.
Mhm.
But you basically answered it with
See, yeah.
other projects.
So I know. So I don't know if you guys know Taylor Alger. She's heavily affiliated with PAC, and she salt of the earth, great gal. And the one thing I'm seeing a lot more like, when I talk to people about recovery and substance abuse and things like that is there's so many people that want to help, and that's something that she's been working a lot on. And so when people call me right now, there's people calling me right now like, hey, is the Dove Project working? I'm like, no, I'm not. I haven't been elected. We gotta get through the election. And so it's not in play, and it's encouraging when people call and ask. It's
It
like,
kind of stinks that you got to wait till you're in office to
well, you got to get elected first, right?
you have to push that.
But I
yeah.
always refer people to her or other people that I know, like Dwayne Painter at our church, with Free Indeed, to try to help them out. Or something else we could do is just generally network. Like I have guys that I've dealt with in the past looking for jobs, and if I've got family that do poultry and things like that, I'll try to get them hooked up with jobs just to try to keep them busy, like you said.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
so when you're talking about being busy, you're talking about purpose,
Yes. Definitely, man.
living
Definitely.
a purposeful life.
Yes, sir.
And when we don't have any purpose, what do? That's why they say never retire, right?
Yes. Yes.
We just stagnate.
Yes, and that's how I felt. And then I stagnated, then I digressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my plan is to never really retire ever. Like, I always want to be doing something. And, I learned that from my dad. My dad's 73, and he was in the car business for decades. He tried to retire for like a week or two. And
Couldn't do it.
he about drove my mom crazy. So now, he still dabbles and fiddles with vehicles and stuff here and there, but he spends a lot of time, taking my son and my nephew out fishing and just staying busy. I mean, he's one of the busiest guys I know, and he's 73. And I think, when you just stop in life, our bodies are designed to
Yeah.
move, and when you just stop in life is when you start having problems.
Man, I was stiff. Like I didn't like having that negative influence on people. Like I feel like when I'm where I should be, I put that positive impact on people. I feel like I can really touch people.
Yeah.
And I love that feeling. There's nothing I love more.
Well, as humans, we're designed to interact with one another. We're not created to kind of stay in a closet by ourselves and not be productive. We're designed to get out and talk to people. And I mean, that's like with COVID. It was so hard. There's people you didn't see, and there was the depression rate in the country
Yeah.
went through the roof because we're not designed to be just hanging out by ourselves. We got to be seeing people.
For me, I had that anxiety when I would be inside. But really, the anxiety was, like my soul telling myself, like, man, you need to be doing what I'm telling you to do. Like,
Yeah.
you feel this way because you ain't doing what you need to be doing.
Well, I can tell you from experience. I mean, the older you get, what's awesome is the more content you get.
Yeah.
I remember, so I went in like this technology phase back in when I was younger. I wanted to have the newest TV, and you're gonna laugh at this, but like the last TV that I bought was like the last of the big box TVs.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah. That thing was huge. I had to have like 3 people help me load it in. I got a surround sound, and I bought it from, I think it was Circuit City.
Oh man,
It's
are they
so-
even still open?
Oh no, I think they're shut down now. But like I got the payment, and I started looking at it because I opened up my Circuit City card with a 15% discount, and I started looking at it. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm racing to try to keep up with this stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't need to do that. I need to be content with where I'm at, and that was early 20s. And that was one of the first steps to contentment that I found within myself.
Yeah,
It's just be yourself, man. And
yeah,
like right now, my iPhone is, everybody can see it. It's an iPhone 7. It's still got the button on it.
That's your logo. Oh,
That was my logo there too.
I've seen that everywhere, man. I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, it's so. What I need to get a new one now because the battery runs down so fast. I have to like charge it all the time.
Yeah.
But early on, I keep up with the new phone now. Yeah, that's the logo. It's
Content.
AC23.
Dude, I thought it was for the Astros in the in the MLB. Oh,
No, it's Aaron Cubbage 2023. In fact, if you look on the ballot, it's going to say Aaron A. AC23 Cubbage. Yeah,
dude, that is so cool.
kind of a branding idea of it.
That is so cool.
All right, I have another question for you.
Shoot.
All right, not only
I don't mean to
only,
talk too long. Sorry.
oh, you're
Nah,
fine.
you good,
You're
man.
fine.
You good.
I only asked this because it happened to me and Carmen at the park about a month ago.
Okay.
And, what happened was we had the kids at the park, and there's a bunch of other kids playing, and Carmen vapes,
Yeah.
and this kid had to be 7 to 10, and she just walks up to us, and she was like, "What flavor is that vape?" And
The kid's 10.
yeah,
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
and I wanted your opinion because it's kind of like a vape epidemic.
Yeah.
For younger
Yeah.
kids. And I just want your opinion on it, what you think about it.
So it's awful.
It's pretty crazy.
It is.
It's crazy, and I think we have a tremendous cultural problem in our country.
Yeah.
But if you look back, there's been times where people that started smoking at early ages and started dipping at early ages, and I think vaping's kind of like that new.
Like the new
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
Okay.
especially when I didn't know this, but I have friends that vape, and of course they're adults, and they've made that decision. But I never knew that you could get like all the different flavors
Yeah.
and stuff. It's crazy, and I think that really ties into with kids, and and you hope that their parents or guardians or whatever would get involved there, because it's obviously not healthy. I mean, I think the big thing they're finding with vaping is popcorn lung. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I actually got a vape.
What flavor is yours?
Old fashioned glazed donut.
Old-fashioned glaze. But you are a 29-year-old making your own decisions, and I would encourage you to stop because I don't want you to have problems down the line.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate
He's
that.
a skinny, fit young man. I mean, he's ready to go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's sad. I know one of the things that I experienced when I was an investigator and running investigations is, just some of the stuff that our kids get involved in at such a young age. And when you start going into people's houses and you see how they live, and it's just sad because there's kids now finding out things at 10 and 11 that I didn't find out till I was 16.
Yeah.
I heard a stat. I love like crazy stats like this, but they said that the amount of information that we get, I'm sure I'm telling you the wrong way, but it's basically like this. The amount of information we have access to in a day is the equivalent of what someone at the turn of the century had in a year.
Yeah.
Oh
I believe that.
man.
And you start thinking about that, and you start thinking about like, just your thumb scrolling on Facebook or TikTok or news. I mean, news is really, we get alerts.
Yeah.
We get fancy
Yeah.
football alerts and like score alerts. And that information we're getting in like a day versus what they got in a year. It's crazy. And unfortunately, I mean, it's good, but unfortunately, kids are impacted as well.
Yeah.
And if they're not protected, I mean, they like a 10-year-old right now with a vape. I mean, I don't know who they're from. Now, when we look into those types of cases, we go and talk to parents and things like that. But because they could be held responsible, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, it's sad. I mean, a kid doesn't know what they're doing to themselves, and I mean, there's a reason why kids can't have access to those types of things. So
Yeah.
it's sad.
That's another reason why I limit my kids' time on her iPad.
It's so smart, so
Yeah.
smart. Well, there's a lot of we're seeing a lot of predatorial activity in those situations where you got guys and people in there trying to stalk kids and things like that. And one of the investigative positions we had at the sheriff's office at the time, I think they still have it, is called the ICAC position. It's the Internet Crimes Against Children, and it was basically a task force unit that worked together all really across the country. And what all they did was investigate cases like that. And we would have parents call and say, "Hey, my 12-year-old's met this guy in Utah, just to name a state,
Yeah.
and he's sending her nude pics."
Mm.
And it's just like that. I mean, these kids in these rooms, it's just like that.
Crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's absolutely crazy, and I think we've got to take every step we can to protect our kids because they're exposed to so much at such early age. And for the audience, none of these questions were pre-prepared.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to
You
make sure.
prepare, but I didn't know them, right?
My other question is the inmate garden. Do you plan on keeping that? Because that's one thing.
Have you ever heard me talk about the inmate garden?
No, I haven't.
All right.
Oh man, that's great. I think I love it.
So here's the thing: it is great, and I love it too. But there's downsides to it because you got people dropping stuff off and things in there. But here's the thing: a lot of people don't know. So the inmate garden sets off to 11. When you ride by, it's like that's
I've seen
awesome.
it.
The problem is we haven't saved any money using it.
Oh, okay.
It's actually cost us $9,000. And the reason, so there's these things you can submit called Freedom of Information Acts, or called FOIA. And I'm all about, I like it, but I'm all about saving where we can save.
Budgeting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I cut it out, but I would want to look if we're yielding 2 months or 3 months worth of garden or potatoes, we're not going to be ordering French fries for the jail because I want to offset the cost. But right now, there's no revenue stream that we're getting back. And the initial idea behind the inmate garden was to use it to save money.
Yeah.
But for that to take place, the sheriff's office is responsible for showing where they're saving money, so that way the county can see it. And right now, there's nothing in place for that.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I would want to show where we're saving money because I think over the course of 8 years we're at $219,000 over budget with our food,
Yeah.
and so we got to get that stuff under control.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was one of the things I thought was pretty cool. And if you won, I was wondering if.
Yeah, I'd love to keep it. I want to find a way to save money with it,
Yeah.
and I think there is a way. So I think when you if I get elected, yeah, I don't take the approach of just looking at what somebody else has done and just throwing it away because it was theirs and not mine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things I work for 3 shares, and there's positive things that you can take away from each one of them.
Right.
And so I think it's selfish just to get rid of it because it wasn't your idea, and I'm not built like that.
Agree.
And I don't mind
agree.
giving somebody else credit where it's due.
Yeah.
So
God respect this. I respect this man. God bless him. God bless him.
All right. This one has to do with marijuana.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
Well, the only reason I say this is I grew up with a lot of people that got on meth and pills, and I've never done either. And they use marijuana to keep themselves from doing the meth and pills. What's your opinion on that?
Well, the states decriminalize marijuana.
Yes.
So I think that's what the state follows is what we follow. Now with fentanyl and methamphetamine and the things that are out there, I mean, obviously it dwarfs a lot of other things like marijuana. But I think the state has decriminalized it for a reason. I know there's cells with it now, and I think as long as you're within that the minimal amount. Like I go door to door and I see people with marijuana plants, and it's funny because I walk up on their porch and I've got my shirt on, and there's still that awkward. They look at you like, hey man, you've got your, I think it's 4 plants. So you got your 4 plants, but you can tell it's weird for them.
Yeah.
And
It's like attention.
yeah, well, it's just, you think about it. For the last how many decades? I've done a lot of search warrants.
Yeah.
With involving marijuana and things like that, and now all of a sudden, people are growing on their back porch next to their tomato plant.
Like, how many times I left the house, seen a cop pass me, and watch you go on the rear view.
It's like you see it, it's like what the heck. But obviously that's one of the things that's changed. And my concern with that though is, there's people that lace that stuff.
Yeah.
And I still, I've never smoked marijuana personally, but I still think you need to be very careful because anytime we put stuff in our body, there's a consequence. I love ice cream, and the consequence of putting ice cream in my body is sugar, issues.
Yeah.
And so I think you got to keep that in mind. And obviously, we don't want our kids involved with that stuff. They're too young. And when you're making decisions like that, that's an adult decision. But no, it's interesting because I've been on, most of my career, marijuana was illegal.
Yeah.
And then I can tell you stories of cases and things, and it's interesting to see the transition to now being decriminalized almost to the point it's non-existent. In fact, I think a lot of people don't know this. So our drug dogs in Virginia had to be completely retrained.
Yeah.
Because most of them were trained to indicate on marijuana. They had to be retrained. A lot of them retired. In fact, I think all of them retired. So yeah, the Commonwealth's been through a lot of changes in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting.
Now, do you ever think about using marijuana in the Dove program? Or are these people locked up?
So the Dove Project
Yeah.
is kind of a twofold purpose. So the purpose on the outside is to try to get people to where they can get to the point of recovery and connecting with them. On inside the jail, it's kind of an expansion of the ministry program that I'd like to see in there to get these guys to the point where we can start celebrating their recovery with their families. So it's not something I would encourage.
Okay.
I
agree.
think you should stay with your coffee and things like that because we don't want to put anything out there that can push them back. And I think everybody's
Agreed.
triggers are different. My goal, and I talk about this from a mental health standpoint with law enforcement and with anybody else, is my goal is to encourage people to just be as healthy as they can.
Yeah.
I know I need to get healthier, and I want people to encourage me. And I just try to encourage people that way. So I think the healthier lifestyle you can live, the better off you can be.
Yeah, I like that.
I've definitely been in that mindset, and my weakness is Pepsi.
I love Dr. Pepper, man.
Yeah.
I love Dr. Pepper, and every once in a while I'll sprinkle in some Mountain Dew because it takes me back to when I was younger.
Yeah, it does.
But
don't it?
every Sunday after church, I'll typically stop in a Kite store, and I'll pick up a Dr Pepper, a Mountain Dew, and a little bag of Gibbles.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, that is like.
Hey, do this next time you guys ever. Yeah, I'm sure you do Ciro's, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So go to Ciro's, get yourself, or any place else in Page County, get yourself a Dr Pepper, put a lemon at the top. It'll change your life.
Like let it float in there.
No,
or
wait,
like,
don't. I just hook it on the end. It adds a level of refreshment that'll blow your mind.
I will try that.
Try it and make sure you tell me how it goes. And it's funny because I like to pretend like it was my idea, but it was one of my friends, and they get all ticked off at me when I start spreading it like it's my idea. It wasn't. But yeah, it's just completely refreshing. It's
That's awesome. I'm gonna try that. You got any more questions, bro?
No, he's pretty much said all.
He's
of them.
nailed them. Hey guys, vote for Aaron Cubbage. Vote for Aaron Cubbage. When's the election?
So right now, early voting is taking place. So you can go down and check out the registrar's office, to see what you need to do for that. The election is November 7th. Polls open up at 5 a.m. and go to 7 p.m. And I would just one thing. Obviously, I would be humbled and honored to have your vote and anybody else's vote in Page County. That's obviously what I'm trying to do. But one thing that I really encourage people to do is get out there and do your research on all the candidates,
Yeah.
including mine. And I've had my policies and the things I want to do out for over a year, and I've wanted people to vet them out. I love debating and talking and things like that. And I think it's part of the democratic process. And plus, when I do things like this and the other things I've done online and anything else in print, I do that to develop a public record so people in the county can hold me accountable.
Yeah.
So when I sit here and talk about the Dove Project, you guys invite me back if I win, and I sit down here like, "Hey, what happened to the Dove Project? What are you talking about?" We're like, "Well, no, we've got it right here on our podcast." So everything that I'm putting out was heavily vetted for about a year and a half. So when you see our brochure, me and my team went through every detail to make sure it was one, that something was needed, and two, it was something that we could do with what Page County can do. Every single last thing. There's not a if you look at our brochure, if you go to my Facebook Lives, which my 25th session is coming around next Monday at 7:45. If you go to the Page Valley News debate that I had with Randy Arrington, if you go to the Trackside Theater Forum, if you go to anything I put out, what I say in private matches up. It all matches up.
Yeah.
There's not one thing that I'm putting out that's different than when I tell people one-on-one. And the reason I've done that is because if you're going to talk about transparency and accountability, you got to live it. And everything matches. And the way I see it is if I get elected in 4 years, I don't know if you guys were at the fair this year.
No.
So we had this
I had to work.
we had like Vistaprint, like this scroll made up, kind of talks about this part of the campaign. Like
Yeah.
this is all kind of the overall skeletal feature of the campaign. And so like in 4 years, I envision it just being as basic. There's another one right beside it talking about the things that we've done.
Awesome.
And that way, my big thing is I didn't want to overpromise. There's things I'm working on in my head, but I haven't put out because I don't want to overpromise because I'm not sure if they'll work out or not.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is what I have put out, I wanted to be able to show in 4 years that I've done it. And so what better way that you've got the old one and you got the new one, and this is what we did.
Man, you do it from the heart.
I appreciate it.
Man,
I appreciate you guys having me, man. This is awesome. You don't know what to expect. And, I was telling you guys, I think again, I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking you to chip in on my salary if I'm elected. I think the least I can do is sit down. And I had no idea. Am I your first politician? Or not politician, but person running?
Yeah.
And you offered it to others?
Yeah, we offered it to Ted, and he has not replied back yet.
Okay. Well, I hope he sits down. I mean, this is especially when you're reaching the younger group. This is how you guys communicate.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be a leader, I need to be able to communicate with people at all levels. And I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Well, we appreciate having you.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You guys excuse me for just a second so I can go to the bathroom.
Absolutely.
I'll close the show. But yeah, it's been pretty fun talking to you and everything, and I wish you luck in the election, and we'll just have to see how that
See how things
goes.
pan out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Either way, if you guys want to sit down again, I'll
yeah,
be glad to do it.
We'll definitely do this again.
Yeah.
This is not only it's like good for the people, but it's good for us too. And I'm all about self improvement right now. That's the thing that I'm been trying to push myself towards. So this has been a lot of help.
Oh, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
But hope everybody has a good evening, and don't be like me and Blake and wait till we're 29 to vote. As soon as you turn 18, guys, use the right that you have and vote. And hope everybody has a good evening.